2 a.m. net begins in approximately 8 minutes, KC9UDX net control here. Hello, Joe.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Oh, no.
Hey.
Oh, there you are. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks.
We got about 2 minutes here.
All right.
I should also say hello to everybody on YouTube. Hopefully my audio's okay. Good evening. This is KC9UDX. My name is Matt, and I welcome you to the 2 a.m. net. The purpose of this net is to promote the use of amplitude modulation and also to establish this part of this band as a place for AM activity in this area. Everyone is invited to listen. Licensed amateurs who can do so legally are encouraged to check in. Listen in the AM mode and transmit in the AM mode where possible. If you cannot transmit in AM, we encourage you to listen in AM and transmit in FM. If you are transmitting in FM, please adjust your transmit frequency a couple kCs above or below from our receive frequency. This facilitates the use of slope detection, that is, demodulating your FM signal with our AM receivers. When checking in, please announce your call sign in standard phonetics. Again, this is KC9UDX. My name is Matt, and I will now begin accepting check-ins. Any station wishing to check in, come now, please. Recognizing Dale, AB9DW. There's one. Do we have any more? All right, hearing none. We also have Joe, YouTuber Bratwurst here. So we're not alone, Dale, not yet. And we'll see if the other guys show up here soon. The only thing I really have to report this month is that YouTube is really trying to squeeze me out of using Windows XP. It's just barely working. So the live stream is working this month. I don't know if I'll have it working next month. I'll have to scramble to see if I can come up with some alternate solutions here. And other than that, nothing much is new. It's just been another busy month at work for me, so time goes by pretty quick. Dale, I'll turn it to you, AB9DW from KC9UDX.
Now I've got some landscaping work to do and so on and so forth. So that's about most activity that's going on here. And then about a week ago, yesterday, my back started to get bad to the point where on Friday it was difficult to do anything, and over the weekend was kind of painful. And I had gone to the chiropractor a few times, and so far it hasn't helped all that much, but I think it's getting a little bit better each day, but it's still pretty hard to walk. But I'm still hobbling into work. I have a part-time job, so I hobble in there and pretty much find my way to my desk, trying to get there as much as possible without having to move around too much. So that's about it for now, Matt. We'll go back to the next show and we'll see if anybody else can check in.
All right, thank you, Dale. Sorry to hear about your back. I can certainly relate. I've been doing a lot of extraneous stuff this year, I guess, and definitely feeling my age. I don't remember, when I work all the hours that I work, I kind of lose track of what happens when, so I don't recall if I had re-roofed my shop prior to last month's net, but I did do that, and I allotted 5 days to do it, thinking it should be no problem. I'll have it done in 3 days, and I think on past the middle of the day on day 3, I was still tearing shingles off. So by the time I had that job done, I could barely walk anymore. I certainly couldn't climb up the ladder to get on the roof anymore. So I can definitely relate to that. Hopefully your back does recover, though. And with that, we'll go to Joe, who I have on the phone here. Joe, go ahead and take a turn.
All right, thanks. I guess not much has been going on here at all. I guess my weird online school thing that I had to do is over, which is good. That's my latest link. But I guess other than that, I got 2 little AM-only kit transistor radios that my brother and I are going to build. He's 10 years younger than me, so he's really young, I guess. But he was kind of interested in it, which got me excited. So yeah, hopefully we can build those in the next week and a half or so.
All right, very good. I did hear you mention those radios in your most recent video, and I wasn't sure. I was going to look up to see if I could find some information on those kits. This is not something I have seen. Of course, there's been numerous kits over the years, and I think when I was probably your younger brother's age, I started building those kind of things too. But that's very good to be doing that kind of stuff. It's always interesting, and even though it's so much different building kits now than it was back then, and of course, long prior to me, there was completely different stuff, even more than what I did. But even though all this stuff keeps changing, it's still good to keep building things and keep interested in that kind of stuff. We're at the bottom of the list. Let's see if we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please.
Kilowatt 9 Alpha, Kilowatt 9, Fox 9.
Whiskey Bravo 9, Bravo Whiskey Papa.
All right, we got Jerry K9FI and Dave WB9BWP. Is there anybody else? All right, hearing none, I'll go to Jerry. Welcome, Jerry, K9FI from KC9UDX.
Okay, well, good evening to everybody. Dale is pretty right. I hardly copy you out here tonight. Usually he's copying, but not really so much in addition. But anyhow, good evening to everybody, and I had to write myself a very large note that I was going to pick up next to my lady boy. And then what happened is I took the note out of my pocket and put it on a shelf and walked over to the lady boy and sat down on it, watched it. And my wife said, "Don't you have a net tonight?" And that was about 5 minutes to 8. So Dave, I think your doctor named Cheryl better than me. But anyhow, I'm glad to be down here. It's nice to hear everybody. And I had heard that ARL I had a kit, something that was for kids to build at some of the ARL programs. Or was it the EAA combined? I forget. But I'd like to find out what that is and see what it is. Maybe get something like that to do with my grandson. And my wife is not a building that stuff too. So Matt, I'll turn it back to you. Keen on that line.
W9JCC.
All right, recognizing Frank. And fine business, Jerry. we'll have to see if we can get some more information on that kit. And thank you to your wife for for reminding you. And I'll quick turn it to Frank in case Frank has something important here. W9JCC from KC9UDX.
No, nothing important, Matt. I'll just wait my turn. I just got down here. I had some company tonight, W9JCC.
Okay, thank you, Frank. I just wanted to make sure just in case. You just never know. So with that, we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP. Welcome, Dave. Go ahead and take a turn.
Okay. Good evening, Paul. Got down here just a couple of minutes ago. Was doing antenna work today. Came in, had something to eat, took a shower, and here I am. Part of the, as I referred to it, the refarming project, since I had to take everything down last year and still getting everything back up to the vertical now. That actually went up vertical on Sunday. And the first few steps in tuning involve a lot of taking down, putting up, taking down, putting up, as you make adjustments to a couple of things. But I got past that part here late today, and there's still probably another day's worth of tune-up to go. But now everything is reachable from the ground, so no more taking it down or climbing a ladder. Well, unfortunately, you really can't climb a ladder to do any of the things you need to do up top. So anyway, then I'll have 2 out of the 3, or 3.5, let's say, because then I still have to get the inverted L for 160, which shares the radial and feed point of the vertical. So maybe that's somewhere in the next couple of weeks. But it'll be enough to certainly fill out the year. And then I can start talking about, hey, I should have a new radio. Every once in a while, my wife doesn't throw anything at me when I bring that up, so who knows what might occur. But as she said, we'll talk about it after all the antennas are up. So there's extra incentive there. Anyway, there's enough for this round, so send it back to this is the B9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. Fine business on the antennas. I was in my backyard the other day, eyeing up my one remaining HF antenna, and one of these days, I guess I have to do something with that. We've been rearranging a lot of other things in the backyard, and maybe the time is getting good for me to do something a little more permanent with that. But I haven't fired up an HF radio here, and I couldn't tell you how long. I could actually look back in the log. It's been at least a year, unfortunately. And with that, we'll go to Frank, W9JCC. Welcome, Frank, from KC9UDX.
Okay, thank you, Matt, and good evening to Jerry and Dave. And I got down here a little late today. My daughter and 2 grandsons were over, and they brought dinner over, and we ended up chit-chatting for a while afterwards. So they left just about the right time. I think they were getting ready to leave just after 8, so fortunately we got down here in time for almost in time for the net. And finally on the antenna work there, Dave, I've got antenna work coming up to pretty major this year. It's every 3 years I take the tower down, and there's a lot of stuff that's got to be done to keep it maintained. It usually takes me 3 or 4 days, but I sure don't look forward to it. It's kind of somewhat dirty, not the cleanest of jobs. But I always hope for good weather. I don't like to do it early in the summer because you get all these thunderstorms and things. And I like halfway decent weather when you can temperature gets down to around 70 degrees or so, and relatively dry. Not too much more to report on this go around. I think I'll turn it back to net control. KC9UDX, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And I guess they have changed the forecast. I think we were originally, last time I looked, supposed to have some severe weather tonight, and I'm glad we don't. But I think they've called off that rain, and now it's supposed to rain tomorrow, and probably not severe, so that's a good thing. A buddy of mine who lives in Lisbon had lightning damage in the last storm that we had. He actually had an uninterruptible power supply start on fire. It didn't ignite to the point where it was going to ignite anything else, but it burned up inside. And he lost quite a bit of electrical equipment. The funny thing that he told me was that he was in the shower and all of a sudden the water pressure went down to nothing and stopped. And he had to figure out, he just moved into this house a couple of months ago, or maybe it's been more than that now, but it hasn't been that long. So he is not familiar with his well pump, and he had to check the control on the well pump, and it had detected a ground fault from the nearby lightning. So anyway, we're at the bottom of the list. Let's see if we have any more check-ins. Come now, please. Hearing none, I will bring up one more thing here. We have a comet currently in the sky. I don't know if it's visible tonight with the clouds, and I have not seen it yet myself because I just haven't had an opportunity to go looking for it, but it should be visible to the naked eye in darker areas, which means probably around here I would need binoculars, but I guess it should be a pretty good sight. It's called Comet Neowise or Comet 2020 F3. I guess I'm not really up on how they name these things, so the only thing I know is Neowise is the name of a satellite. I think they discovered the comet with the satellite, and that's how it got that name. But with that, we'll go to the top of the list. Dale, AB9DW from KC9UDX. All right, thank you, Dale, and fine business on that. And your story about running over the guy wire with the tractor reminds me of something that happened to me just the other day. I've got these really nice little, I guess they're Chinese-made dual band magnet mount antennas. I picked these up at a swap fest. I don't know how long ago. I think the brand name on them is, well, I won't even say it because I don't know for sure. I've totally forgotten. But these, for some reason, these little dual band antennas have outperformed every other good name brand antenna I've tried to compare them to. And I don't know if you can still buy them anymore, but they're kind of important to me because they just work really good. And I've got one in my garage that I'm not sure how it ended up on the floor, but it did. And I was pulling my Jeep in the garage the other day, and when I'm pulling that vehicle in, it's hard to see, and there's a lot of things to watch for, so it's, you know, if something's in just the wrong spot, it can be a big problem. And that antenna apparently was under my right front wheel, and I could not see it. And I did not really realize that I was running it over. I knew something was up, but it felt like, you know, something small and insignificant, and I get out, and there the antenna is very nicely 90-degree bent right at the base. It did a very good job. But fortunately, I was able to straighten it out. I'll have to check it out and make sure that it still works. And with that, we'll go to Joe. I've got YouTuber Bratwurst on the phone here. Joe, go ahead and take a turn.
All right, thanks. I guess speaking of like tractors, that reminds me of like farm equipment, which led me to a project that my dad's friend, my dad and I are going to be working on. Our house came with a gable barn because it was, I guess, originally a farm when it was built over 115 years ago. It's now in the middle of the city, but it's going to have a barn back there. But anyways, it's leaning over because there's a walnut tree that's pushing it over, and the project that we're going to do is try to like repair the building because the repair costs are going to cost less than getting a whole new garage. Structurally, it's in good shape, so I mean, why take it down? Anyways, yeah, we're going to have to take down the tree, and luckily it's not big, it's only like maybe 15 years old, 20 years old, and that should be a fun project, I guess. I don't know how we're going to try to lean it back into place. Luckily it's only leaning a little bit, but some methods that I thought were possibly having something very like tall and heavy and leaning that up against the end that's kind of pushing forward, trying to push it back, or another thing that I thought of is maybe it might just lean back naturally and the whole will rot away. I guess, I don't know. Yeah, that should be a fun project. I guess that's all for now.
You want to mention what that kit was?
Oh, it was, let's see, YouTube user Shanko 66 build 1. This bread, I know that. It starts with H, and I got it on bankfood.com for like, I think, $5.89. No computer chips at all, or no ICs. It's all just transistor radio, like how they've been making for a really long time. Which surprised me that they still made AM only transistor radio.
All right, well, thank you for that. And it is, you know, I guess for some reason those kits have always been AM only. It's kind of odd. I remember thinking that a long time ago that you never see them with an FM band on them. It wouldn't be that terribly difficult to implement something like that, even if it wasn't a traditional FM receiver. You know, you could have an AM receiver that receives different bands or something. Banggood.com. I have seen that site. I have not bought anything there. Maybe I'll have to check that out, but thank you. And next we'll go to Jerry, K9FI from KC9UDX.
Okay. Well, good evening to Frank there. He's got a bombing signal as usual. Everybody else is like the marshal. Let's put it that way. You're coming in okay, Matt. Dave's coming on the light side. Dale is lighter than that, so I can just barely hear him. But Frankie's bending the needle off over here. So he's the closest too. And he's got the least hills in between us. But other than that, I have, let's see, over the last couple of weeks, we did get our field-based stuff all mailed in for the MRAC club. Did do the 13 counties. Got all of them except the Great Britain station, which we heard but never got. We got my wife mailed that stuff in today. And I'm going to go back to my list of states that I got QSL cards from. And the ones I don't have, I'm going to try to remail them and get a new one so I got a full set. Because I think the state individual cards are pretty neat when you see them. So other than that, my niece, who lives up near Merrill, up in that region, was saying tonight that they had some really heavy winds. They guessed they had gusts about 60 miles an hour, and the rain was coming down so hard, it looked like a snowstorm. So that's maybe what some of the weather is that they're getting up in that region. So with that, Matt, I'll turn it back to you. K9.5.
All right, thank you, Jerry. I was up in that area, I was up by Chippewa Falls 2 weeks ago, I think. 3 weeks ago, I don't remember anymore. But we had just missed some pretty bad weather up there at that time. I think it was bad before we arrived, and it was bad after we left. So I'm glad I missed that. Not good, though, that everybody else up there had that. And now I distracted myself. I was going to mention something else here, comment on something else you said, and I completely forgot what it was, but that's what I get for not writing it down. And with that, we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP from KC9UDX.
Okay. Have to use YouTube for Jerry, so it's a good thing that still has that working, Matt. Let's see. Dale is, he's just a couple of miles from here, so almost sounds like he's overloading the radio. I didn't look at the meter for Frank, but Frank is his usual self over here. And Matt, you're coming in about F7. So it seems like the band is average tonight. The last couple of days, 2 meters have been open pretty well. Monday night, was hearing Michigan real well during the MSOE net. And last night, I usually have a scanner running, covering mainly all ham stuff, a few public service things. Let's see, the scanner's connected to a discone in the garage. So that's, certainly nothing special for an antenna. But I was hearing a number of Chicago repeaters, no problem, on the scanner last night. I can hear Chicago when I use real radio on the outside antennas. I can get into the Chicago repeaters, but with the scanner just on the discone, I was surprised when it was stopping on those frequencies. I'm like, wow, look at that. So I know that 2 meters have been pretty well open the last few days. Don't know about 6. And I guess it's handy this weekend is the CQ-VHF contest. Maybe I'll give a little half-hearted try, I guess, depending on what else I've got going on. I haven't put a lot of effort into the VHF ones, but you never know what might pop up. I guess those most of my 6-meter contacts have been during the contest, I think. And antenna stories, I've broken stuff not because I drove over it, usually because I put it together wrong or things like that. In fact, just today I discovered on the vertical that there's a number of tubes that go together, and some are the same size, and they're slit on the end. So anyway, the antenna seemed to be a little too wobbly in one section, and I discovered I put one section of tubing in wrong way, but I wasn't going to take it apart and change it, so I just added some hose clamps. Hasn't affected any of the tuning, so that's good. And one of the just what's going on now, and one of the you should probably say something about this week, and yeah, so we'll sign back to that. This is PWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And you mentioned the scanner. You know, I noticed the other day, well, at least I thought about this. You know, I've been noticing it a lot, but with all the weird stuff going on in the news, scanners are becoming popular again. You know, it used to be a long time ago, people would listen to the scanners a lot, and then I guess for a long time nobody did. But now it seems like people are again. And of course, some of that is because it's so easy to do. You don't even have to own a scanner. You can go online and find somebody else's scanner to listen to, which is a pretty incredible thing. But that's something I did notice is a lot of people are listening to scanners again, which, you know, is kind of surprising. I've got quite a few scanners here, and, you know, I used to listen to them a lot. I think the only one that's still in operation has been relegated to baby monitoring. So, unfortunately, my 6-meter Gonset communicator is pretty much in the same boat. So one of these days I'll get a little more active in this stuff again. And I've had the antenna that I'm operating on right now has been extremely reliable, uncannily so. It holds up to just about everything. I've never had an issue with it. One thing I did notice the past couple of weeks is, for some reason, I've got a dragonfly that perches on the very tip of the antenna. Now, it's not unusual to see a bird up there once in a while, or birds, you know, perched on the radials. That's very common, actually. But I thought it was kind of strange. There's a dragonfly that keeps returning to the very, very apex of the antenna. And one more antenna story. I was operating on 160 meters one night with my sort of 80-meter dipole. You know, it barely works like that, and I really probably shouldn't even be doing that. And I was transmitting, and all of a sudden I had some snap, crackle, pop going on, and I immediately unkeyed and I ran outside, and my antenna had fallen to the ground. So that's my I just happened to, that came to mind when you were talking about antennas, so I figured I'd mention it. And with that, I'll get to Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, thanks, Matt, and good evening to Dale, and didn't hear when I first got down here. And the signal report-wise, everybody's coming in great. Matt, your usual 40 over 9. Jerry, about 10 over 9. Dave, 5 and 6, and Dale, a lot of 5 and 7. So good signals here. And it's good to hear Joe in there. And Joe, I was just wondering if you've been working on that ham radio license yet, or if you got any plans to do that. And as far as field day goes, I did not rack up a very big count. I operated 100 watts and made about 6 or 8 contacts, and I didn't even bother to send anything in. But I was operating out of the patio with my vintage equipment from mid-1960s. And as far as scanners go, I've got about 3 of them. I'm using 2 of them right now. And I got one set on the club repeater, and the other one just scans a few of the local repeaters. And let's see what else. I heard that I got an email the other day. There's going to be a virtual Hamfest coming up, and it might be kind of interesting if it's raining out and I don't have anything to do. I might try to get in on that, see what's going on. Another thing I've been doing down here, I've been synchronizing two dehumidifiers. I got one big one that is very old. I got it in, actually that came from the mid-60s as well. I bought it upstairs. It's a very high capacity one. I got it for the main part of the basement over in the laundry room. And I got another one here in the ham shack. And try to get them synced up so they both run without one taking over. And finally realized the best thing to do is to just putz with the one that's in the ham shack, because it's got a little more resolution on the controller. It's digitally controlled, and you can run her up and down, and I think I've got it, so I get well out of both of them now, so I'm happy about that. Anyway, back to net control, WNGCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. I've got a kind of odd-shaped basement. My basement is very much divided in two, so I have to have two dehumidifiers, and they pretty much just run all the time in the summer. With the air conditioning running, which since I replaced the windows a couple of years ago, I pretty much do all the time now, the dehumidifiers actually keep up. They read, I think right now they're reading 50%, which is pretty good. When I am not running the central air conditioning, though, they don't keep up at all. And I guess if I didn't run the air conditioner, I'd be investigating getting a couple more of them, or maybe some larger ones or something. These ones that I have are, well, they must be less than 15 years old, and they're just not as nice as some of those bigger, older ones like you're talking about. And I guess that goes with just about everything these days. With that, we're at the bottom of the list. Do we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net? Come now, please. Hearing none. I was kind of hoping that Gary W9TOF would pop around here one of these months. He did probably 6 months ago, I think, and I was just kind of hoping he would come around here again. But also, Bill WQ9A is in the works of setting up to be able to get on the net here, so in the coming months, hopefully we'll see him on here too. And I'll go to the top of the list, Dale AB9DW from KC9UDX.
Yeah, man, KC9DW here. Well, signal-wise, I can't hear Jerry at all, which is a little unusual. Sometimes most times I can hear him above the noise floor. He's never real strong, but I can usually pick him up. But not tonight, not tonight. And as Matt, of course, you're out for me down here in Franklin. It's always a weak signal. So for you and Jerry and of course Paul, I use the YouTube videos to help me understand what's all going on. And of course, as Dave mentioned, he's only a few miles away, so he's always extremely strong. And Frank is just a little less strong than me. So Dave and Frank are always pretty darn good. So, and there's a crazy story about that guy wire that I hit. I actually I saw it coming, and because I've cut the grass many times before without having to have a problem with the guy wire. But in this particular case, I grabbed onto the guy wire, lifted it up over my head, and I forgot to hold it long enough so that the seat of the tractor got high, and I let it drop down behind my shoulder, and it caught the seat of the tractor. And it wasn't until I had gone another 10, 15 feet that I recognized that there was an issue. By that time, of course, it was way too late. The antenna was pretty much crumpled. So that's the story on that. I do have a scanner as well, and it is also connected to a zip code like Dave has, that might be outside next to the house. But I don't listen to a lot on the scanner. I generally listen to just the amateur amateur frequencies. I don't really listen to a lot of there's a lot of chatter that goes on with the police and fire call stations and so on and so forth. So that gets boring too quickly for me. So I tend to turn that off, and I only have it on for the amateur stations. And the whole thing with Zoom meetings and virtual meetings is kind of interesting. I work for a school, and with all the rules changing on a constant basis, we never actually know what it was we're supposed to be doing at the beginning of the school year. So it's interesting now with Milwaukee County, accepting the recommendations of the health guys saying, mandatory mask wearing and all that sort of stuff. So it's interesting to see what the school does in response to that. So I'm looking forward to that. And it was so interesting. We have 79 QM Gary and W298 joined starting that day. I'm sure they would have a lot to add. So hopefully they'll be able to do that in the near future. Anyway, back to you, man.
All right, thank you, Dale. And I was going to comment on the virtual Hamfest before. Thank you for reminding me. That is, I'm trying to imagine how that's even possible. But I guess I'm not real up on all this virtual meeting stuff. I tried joining a couple of Zoom meetings, amateur radio club stuff. I tried joining up with some of those club meetings, and I was very unsuccessful. I guess my problem is I did not use a computer and a camera, so nobody knew I was there. I found out that with Zoom and one of the other services, I don't remember the name of it, but these things all are very fault tolerant. That's probably not the right word, but they don't rely on modern computers 100%. That's what everybody's using, but you don't have to do it that way. You can call in on the phone, and as long as you have the right numbers for the group and everything, you can dial that on the keypad and it connects you and you can be in the meeting. But of course everybody expects that you're using a computer, so that if your face doesn't pop up, they don't know you're there, and if you start talking, everybody kind of ignores you. So that's been my miserable experience with that. And a couple of nights ago I had my every 3 years NFPA 70E refresher thing at work, and we had to do it virtually, I guess. We all sat in a room, and the guy that did the training played back a video presentation of himself over one of these online services, and it was just terrible. He might as well have sent us the video file and we play it back, because it just didn't work in real time with the network latency and errors and things. So I don't have a real high opinion of of a lot of this online meeting stuff. I think that the video quality is over the top. I think things would work a lot better if they restricted it to audio or very low video quality, but that's just my opinion, I guess. And I also have a disc cone antenna. It's one of those Radio Shack ones. It actually is a really nice antenna. It's got a 6-meter whip in the center of it. And I use that quite a bit. I've got that on a 4-port alpha delta antenna switch, and even then I plug different things into that all the time. Well, in recent years I haven't used it so much, but in the past I've used it an awful lot. And one of the things that's hooked up to that is a scanner, and it does work very well for that. And that's another one of those things that's a real shame that you can't just go to Radio Shack and buy anymore. Speaking of which, I did buy some cables, some audio cables from RadioShack.com, just because I have given up buying things from Amazon, and I figured, what the heck, I'll try Radio Shack, and I'm kind of disappointed. Of course, the quality isn't what it used to be, and buying it from them is kind of expensive. I guess I shouldn't complain too much, but I think we're all spoiled with all this free shipping nonsense that everybody else is doing. Anyway, I'll quit rambling on about that, and we'll turn it over to Joe. Joe, go ahead and take a turn from KC9UDX.
All right, thanks. I haven't had to do too many Zoom meeting kind of things. I did not know that you didn't need a very high-tech computer to do those. I knew that you could do them over the phone. What I really should have been doing is using one of my ancient computers that have black and white webcams to join the meetings and have very bad microphones just to mess with people. But I kind of have the same opinion. I don't really like them. They're not like my cup of tea, I guess you could say. But I guess my opinion's too strong on it. But yeah, I guess that's all. I'm kind of distracted. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's no problem. Thank you, Joe. And speaking of computers, I should mention I bought a computer recently. It's actually the first time I bought a new computer in, well, I can't do the math in my head right now, but the last time I bought a new computer was 1986 when I bought a Commodore 64. This is the first new computer I've bought since then. So it's a Pinebook Pro, and what it is a laptop. It's very inexpensive. It was just over $200, and it's a community-designed open source kind of thing. It's sort of like, well, what the Pine 64 products are is a competing thing for the Raspberry Pi. They've got these single-board computers that look just like a Pi, only they're a little bit better. And this laptop is built on that same technology, so it's kind of like having a complete pre-built laptop that works like a Raspberry Pi. You would not be able to run Windows on it, I don't think. Well, you could probably set up a virtual machine and run Windows that way, but otherwise it's ARM-based, so I suppose you could run Windows 10 for ARM, and I have opinion about that, so I won't mention that too much, but you can run Unix, BSD, Linux, and all sorts of things under emulation. It's a pretty slick thing, and they're hard to get because the demand is higher than what they can produce them. I tried to buy another one here recently and have not been able to yet. But they are making all kinds of crazy things. They make a tablet. They actually make a phone that's based on this same stuff. And it's kind of odd because the phone doesn't 100% work yet. It's been out for, I think, a year now, and they're still continuously working on getting that thing working. It would be fun to have something like that and play around with it, but that's something I don't really need and can't really justify buying it. Anyway, I'm going to keep going on and on again here, and we're running kind of short on time, so I'll send it to Jerry, K9FI from KC9UDX.
Alrighty. Well, you know, man, I'm not exactly on a time slot here. If we run over, it won't break my arm. You know, I can come down here to say we got it done in an hour, but I suppose if you don't put a guideline on it, we'll be here like we are sometimes after Friday night. We get off about 11 o'clock. Stay on for another hour or so. But anyhow, I've got a couple of questions. Let's see. You might comment is the way to look at the sky to see the comment. And if I can do that, you tell me which direction. And also, you mentioned you had a number of different scanners. What I'm looking for is the system for programming a Bearcat 101. You have the information for programming frequencies in it. You might let me know. Email it or make me a copy or whatever if you have the information. And let's see. Now I had another thing I was going to say. Oh, now I forgot what. Oh, I was going to say that to Frank there. Frank, I got my loop going. I'm going to test it tomorrow. I had to work on the drive, motor drive, to turn the capacitor. I had an interconnect problem with the little drive pad on it. It didn't work. So we'll see how mine works tomorrow. And I'm going to take, if it's not, the weather's not too bad, I'm going to take it out in the yard here and put my antenna analyzer on it and see how well it comes up on 40 and 20 and 10 and all that, and then write down some numbers for bandwidth, so we'll see how it all works out. And if I get it, so if it works out decent, I might even put the radio on it a couple days, maybe Friday, whenever it's not raining out, and take the 7,000 out there and see how it works. See how it works. It's kind of fun. And I've been reading down the directivity on them. The power goes off the picture, not off the broadside, it's off the beam side, the narrow side, and the opposite of the side hole, let's put it that way. So anyhow, it's kind of fun to see how it comes up and what happens. So I thought I'd let you know that you were the one who mentioned it to me. And it's a nice setup. If I were to do it again, I would use a different soldering iron. It didn't have a very heavy soldering iron to solder some of the heavy stuff. But anyhow, we'll see how it works. And the element itself is pretty nice. So now that I've rambled on, I'm going to back to that. K9FI.
All right, thank you, Jerry. And frankly, I don't mind if you guys run all night here. Unfortunately, I have a time limit. I do have to go to work tonight, and if we're not, if I'm not off the air here by 9 o'clock, then things get pretty difficult for me getting to work. So that's the only reason we have a time limit. Otherwise, I would say, yeah, we could just go till whenever. And as far as the scanner, unfortunately, I wouldn't have any idea how to do that. Maybe one of the other guys does. I've got two kinds of scanners. One is the old kind that is barely programmable, and I've got one that's, I'd like to say it's very new, but it's probably not so new anymore. The problem with that one is it requires a Windows computer to program it, and I've, for the longest time I just didn't have anything like that, and now I guess I have one, but it's not really accessible, and I couldn't practically use it to do that, and I don't even know if I still have the manual for it, so I'm not sure if I know how to do it, and you probably can't get the Windows drivers for it anymore anyway. So that one I don't program, and the other ones, well, there's not too much programming to do in them. And with that, we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP from KC9UDX.
Okay. Yeah, I've got two scanners here. One handheld, one base. When I get the handheld, maybe a little newer. And that one, the programming stuff uses a two-conductor base engine plug, and the other scanner uses a 3. And considering they're both Radio Shacks and they're both made by GRE, it's interesting they decided to, hey, let's just mess everybody up there so that they can't use the same cable and stuff that they had. They keep wanting to make a universal thing here, and yeah, that's on my project list along with other stuff. But you never know what you might be able to run on that laptop there, Matt, because Apple's going to move to ARM processors. They're upset at Intel, and so they're going to make a change once again for the processors, and I think it's across the board. I'm not sure on all their machines going to ARM-based stuff. And the video things, there's actually two things coming up, possibly three, actually. DX Engineering is doing something this month, an all-day, online thing with speakers and such. And then there's a thing from QSO today, the virtual Ham Expo, and that's in August. So there's let's see, that one I think is 2 days. The DX Engineering thing is one. HRO may do something because there probably won't be a Superfest, not as we know it, and they may have some online things happening. I did sit in for some of the Contest University during the Invention Weekend. Normally that's something you got to pay for, and it's a whole extra day out at Dayton. This year, because there was no Dayton, it was free, and it's all online. I know I did sat through all 8 hours of it, and at their peak, they had like 2,500 people, I think, were signed into that. So, the stuff's not bad, and the handy part is you can kind of come and go, which is good too, as opposed to when you go and you're sitting in the room, and especially if it's like, oh, this is really boring, I don't want to listen to this, but if I get up right now, everybody's going to see that. Anyway, we're getting at the clock here, and I guess that covers all the things that I had to offer. The last few days have been just all working on antenna stuff, so don't know too much about the rest of the world. That, and they're still twisting me around for my back. Not sure if that'll ever end, actually, but Anyway, with that, I'll send it back to Ned. This is the BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And well, I hope your back is doing good yet. Sorry to hear that you don't know when that's going to end. That well, I guess things could be worse. And you mentioned the scanners, the way they did things different, and the first thing that pops into my head is, way back when Radio Shack, when they rebranded somebody else's product, they specified how it was built, and they had it built their way. And then something changed in Radio Shack management where they just started rebranding existing products, and I wonder if that isn't why they changed that. Obviously at one time when you bought something from Radio Shack, you could count on how it worked, and it was always very very compatible with their other products. That was always really nice. And with that, we'll go to Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And I had to check to make sure I was on the right side. I moved back to change the other side of the TS2000. I want to make sure we're not transmitting on the repeater. Anyway, on the scanners, all of mine are analog, up 3 of them. I just retired the Radio Shack scanner. It was a big one that about 3 inches high and 8, 9, 10 inches wide and about 8 inches deep. And it also had a number of mounters that you could use with it, so you could put in your car. So it's an old one. And I got 2 of the smaller ones, and I forgot what the brand is on them, but they're kind of neat because they just got a little vertical antenna sticking up the back. It's got a BMC connector on it, and a little pistol to program, but I didn't put too much in them, so I got all I wanted for the time being. And they're all analog, so I don't get any of the digital stuff on those. They do both have a rubber button, so if I want to know the rubber, I can hit the button and I can get to that. As far as the Zoom meetings go, we've had a couple of Zoom get-togethers with our club, with our radio club. And as far as the resolution there, Matt, I think it's good that you need the good resolution, because if you're going to show any kind of reports or anything, or any kind of office documents, it's good to be able to read them. I'll vote for a better resolution on those things. And so let's see. I'm going to be off at 9 o'clock. I'm going to make this my 73 one because there's not too much time left. And another thing that is happening here, we still don't have any freezers in the pipeline. And I don't know when they're going to be available anymore. And the zucchini are starting to go. We already picked 2 big ones out of the garden already. There's another one out there to pick. And if when he makes any zucchini bread, there's not going to be much room to freeze them. So we've got to make use of our small freezer in the refrigerator. But we did make a stir fry last night. That worked out pretty good. Anyway, not too much more here. We'll say 73. Turn it back to net control, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And I'll tell you, I can certainly appreciate what you mean with the high resolution capability. What I don't understand is that they pretty much make it a requirement for everybody, as far as I can tell. You can't have somebody who needs to use high resolution and somebody who doesn't need to use a lower resolution. Maybe Zoom does. I'm not too up on that, but I know with Google Duo, I had to use that the other day, and there's no settings on that at all. You're either there with full resolution and high bandwidth and terrible lag and latency, or you're just not there at all. And I think that's silly that you can't turn down the quality when you don't need the quality. But again, that's just me, and I have I think a lot of the older stuff works better than a lot of the newer stuff anyway, so I tend to lean towards lower resolution, I suppose. Well, we're pretty much out of time here. I'll say 7-3 to you, Frank, and we'll go through the list here. We'll call this a 7-3 round. Dale AB9DW from KC9UDX. All right, thank you, Dale. I'll say 7-3 to you, and I'll turn it over to Joe. 7-3 round. Okay, we lost Joe. I was afraid of that. I think my phone connection or his phone connection times out in an hour, I think. So I think we ran out of time there just at the wrong time. That seems to be what happens anyway. But Joe, if you're listening on YouTube, I'll say 7-3 to you, and thank you for being here. And next we'll go to Jerry, K9FI from KC9UDX.
Okay, guys. The program's actually the Zoom, everything worked out fine, and I don't know a hill of things about it. All I know is the ID number, the password, and that's as much as I know. I give you FaceTime with my son quite often in Montana. I talk quite a bit of time, and that works out very nice. And it's amazing. I got a little iPad. I got my wife's older when she got a new one from her son for Christmas, and now I'm starting to use it, and I'm starting to learn how to use the camera and finding out how let's put it this way. Those things really spoil you if you make everything so convenient. And I just use my lazy boy looking up stuff on the internet, which is really nice. So anyhow, guys, nice talking with everybody. Have a good week. Stay safe, stay warm, and I should say stay cool, and stay away from the virus part. Nice chat with you. Thanks for running the net, Matt. K9FI.
All right, thank you, Jerry. And I'll say 7-3 to you, and I think Joe is back. We'll see if he is. And Joe, go ahead and take a turn.
All right, yeah, thanks. I'm back. Instead of hitting the unmute button, I hit the hang up button. But so, yeah, I guess I don't have too much to say. I guess thanks to Matt for running the WAMNet and inviting me over. So, yeah, I guess 7-3.
All right, thank you, Joe. And I'll say 7-3 to you. I'll hang up the phone when I shut everything else down here. And thank you for being here. This is an interesting way to do things, and it sure is nice to do things a little bit different. And what's interesting is that we've gotten so good at doing it this different way. Something that's previously I thought we'd have a hard time doing. But anyway, next we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP from KC9UDX.
Hey, they're supposed to be experimenters, right? Always got to come up with some new way to do something. 73 to everybody there. Good hearing everybody here in this slightly different world here that I think still confuses a lot of people when they say, yeah, there's a net on 2 AM. Anyway, 73 to all, and we'll encounter all of you in other means here in the near future. With that, this is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. I'll say 7-3 to you, and I'll make one final comment here is that, you know, with all of the strange things going on in the world, obviously our on-air activities for ham radio haven't changed, and that's expected. That's exactly what we're supposed to be able to do, so that's good. And with that, I'll say this concludes the 2 a.m. net. Feel free to rag true on this frequency after my transmission. We will meet again on the 11th of August. Until then, this is KC9UDX73, and good night.